Hello guys, Alex here with UGeek Online and PPR, and we're having a look at the new Bradman Cricket 14. This version on the 360, it's on PS3 as well. Made by the guys over at Big Ant, nice Australian company. Good to see some games coming out of Australia, and to be honest, it's nice to see a new cricket game. We've not had one for a while. Jumping in, heaps of game modes and stuff like that, guys. Obviously there's no licenses in the game, so the first thing they do is they take you in the Cricket Academy and say, hey look, do you want to replace all the teams with the highest rated ones that people have made already? Yes, of course I do. Essentially, this completely bypasses all those licenses. We now have properly named players in the game. And you can do it with umpires as well. You know, if you want to be given out, particularly by Richard Culborough, hey, who wouldn't? Good to go. Someone's made him for you. They've got a couple of training modes in the game. There's a match training and a nets training. I get it. I understand why they're in there. Personally, I don't think they're actually that useful. This is one of the few games where I'll actually condone reading the instruction manual. Read through it, guys, before you do anything front to back. It actually gives you a lot of information about what you need to do. And while you can jump in and use this training mode, it doesn't actually give you a lot of help. It kind of just tells you part of what's inside that instruction manual. You don't end up learning a whole lot. I learned a lot more just by reading. I think the nets mode is a little more useful than that centre wicket practice. You get a lot of balls fired at you relatively quickly, and they show you what your timing is, which particularly early on in the game can be one of the biggest struggles trying to get that right. I just don't see why you would bother doing like a practice match. Hey look, none of the matches you play mean anything anyway. You might as well just jump in and play a real match, you know, and have some fielders there and don't have so many sort of loading scenes in between deliveries. The whole thing just sort of felt a little bit slow and clunky. Moving on though, if we jump into a bit of a game scenario here, the match presentation stuff is really good. I have to say, it does look really nice. The whole game graphically, actually, given it's on technically past gen, looks really nice. They've got a lot of stuff going on. It is a little slow at times, particularly stuff through here like the coin toss. There's no reason that this needs to take so long. It just gets a little bit frustrating when you've been playing for a while or you're playing with friends or whatever. You just want to get in and play some cricket and you've got to go through all this. There's a lot of loading times, a lot of just looking at still images, and I mean, I understand it adds to the character of the game, but it probably could have been done a little bit quicker. That being said though, stuff like the animations as they walk out to bat, it all looks good. You know, it looks like it would be on a TV broadcast, and again, you do actually have the option to skip this stuff now. You don't through that toss, but yeah, I mean, if you want to look at it, you can look at it, and that little back pat just there, possibly the cutest thing I've ever seen in a sporting game. That's just adorable. Alright, let's jump into some action here. The first major thing you'll notice is there is no fielding radar. When you're batting, you have to rely on looking through the batsman's eyes for 5 seconds before each delivery to work out where your fielders are. Because there's no sort of beacon or highlighting on who's a player though, it can actually be really tricky early on to work out what's a boundary fielder and what's like a photographer or even like an advertising hoarding. Something I'm sure they've looked at, something I'm sure they'll patch in, but right now, you really have to like sort of hit and hope that it is indeed a photographer and not a player. Moving on, I mean, batting all round is generally a pretty nice experience. Particularly in the amateur mode, it's relatively easy just to pick up and play. There's a heap of different shots you can play. You know, they've added things in like the little ramp shot and the reverse sweep, and you know, it's a fun game. It's definitely a step up from anything we've seen before, and it's not perfect. There are still some wacky things that go on, but for the most part, the control scheme and the way it works out works very well. On that control scheme, they've sort of designed their own. They've gone with something new, and I like that. A lot of people I've read have sort of come out and said, oh, it's hard to get used to, but that's the point. Like, you don't want to be scoring hundreds in your first game. It's nice that there's a bit of a learning curve. I mean, there are still some shots that I think are a little bit too easy to play from the start, like that little ramp over gully. It's too easy to get that away for 4, and particularly when you're facing spin bowling. A little pickup shot over backward square, it's just too easy to hit that ball for 6. I don't know why it's so powerful, but for whatever reason, it's an easy little get-out shot. Having said that though, you know, there are plenty of shots on offer that don't all work out for you, and if you do get cocky, the game is going to pick you up on it. The game is going to get you out wherever it can, and quite often just because it wants to. You know, it's going to find cheeky little ways to get rid of you. Bowling-wise, bowling I think is a lot easier. They've changed things up a lot. A lot of it is now available at your fingertips. No longer are you having to go through menus to find all your fielding options. These are done through the D-pad. So you can control these in your run-up without pausing the game. It feels very natural. There's a lot of field setting options, and you can go through and change them all as well. Changing your bowler is even done through that option, and it just flows really nicely. You can see there they've added their own bowling controls. You know, it's not a timed thing so much anymore. And they are really nice. They do take a little bit to get used to, particularly on the higher difficulties. This is on amateur, so you get quite a nice little window. But it's a nice thing to have like different control scheme. Spin as well is different to bowling pace, which is nice. You know, previously it was all very much the same. I have to say though, it seems a lot easier to take wickets with spin. I don't know what the imbalance is, but for whatever reason I find it a lot easier to get batsmen out when I'm bowling spin. One of the big new things they've added in is the DRS. Now, you have to press a button to appeal in this game. If you want an LBW decision, or a lot of the time a call behind decision as well, you have to press up on the D-pad. You have to tell your players to appeal. If you don't, you are not getting a wicket. If that appeal gets turned down, you will be given the option to challenge. It is so much fun using the DRS. It works really well. The whole setup and the presentation of it is pretty much spot on. They go through each of the elements that they should. They go through it. It's presented really nicely. The whole thing can take, you know, a minute or so. It's a little bit drawn out, but hey, that's the fun of a review. You know, it's building that tension. And I mean, I have had a couple overturned. You don't get a whole lot overturned, but they do throw in a couple of wrong decisions. And you know, if you've not used up your reviews and you're brave enough, then jump in and challenge it. The hotspots, they are massive, but I'm sure we can overlook that. That's just one little tiny detail, but overall, really well done.
And the decision stands. Funny edge.
Now there are issues with the fielding though. The fielders are very overpowered at the moment. They will hit the stumps from side on, from the boundary 9 times out of 10. It's not a massive issue, it just gets really frustrating. It makes running really dangerous, and I find that 90% of my wickets are run-outs because of stupid little things, not necessarily me making a bad call. And one thing, you hear this noise a lot.
No run there.
Get used to that, guys. You're going to be hearing a lot of it. A couple of things I've noticed. You're getting a lot of issues like this. Stuff where obviously it's just the way that the fielders are designed to take runouts. You get decisions like this where just no, I can't see what's going on there. I understand, you know, it's buggy. It's the first release of the game. There are patches coming. Just beware that if you're on 98, there's a decent chance that something a little funky is going to happen to you. Fielding wise, animations are all really good. There's a heap of different catching animations. You don't ever feel like you're seeing the same thing over and over again, which is really nice to see. To be fair, that's something that happens through the whole game. It doesn't feel canned. It doesn't feel like they've made 3 animations. And while sometimes they probably go a slightly more extravagant route when they don't need to, and the batsmen look a little bit silly when they're playing a few shots, it doesn't feel repetitive. Overall, it has to be said that Big Ant have really done a great job with this game. You know, it's not perfect at this stage, it was never going to be perfect at this stage, but they are actively working to improve it. They're listening to what people are saying, and I mean, to be honest, they're working on quite a nice little platform. For the guys to have made their own engine and build everything from the ground up, it's a very playable game. It doesn't have glaring faults that mean that you can't end up playing. Heap of different game modes. You know, you can play through international tournaments, you can play a career mode as well, you can play for 20 years as one player, being, you know, traded and sold to different clubs, working your way up from starting at a low level, working out to international, playing through Big Bash and county cricket and stuff like that, and it works really well. Overall, look, they've done a lot of things right. There's a couple of things that need polishing, but I'm sure they will, and I'd like to see where it goes. I mean, overall, I'm not going to throw a rating on it, it's too early for that, but really good job, guys. Really good game. Have a look at it. PC version coming as well later in the year. But that's it from me. I'm Alex. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check us out over on New Geek Online. See ya.